U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent claims that Mark Carney walked back his Davos speech when he called Trump yesterday. But obviously, Carney denies it. When I said politics was like the WWE, I was wrong. It's more like the he said, she said high school drama. Can't we just make a deal already? My name is Nico Lagan, and I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. Feels like I'm in drama from high school. Not that I attended a lot of high school. I was way too busy skipping school and doing drugs back then. But I'll just say, man,
Well, that's the important thing. The important high school experience.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. If there's a life lesson, don't drop out of high school when you're 15, because going back sucks. So you might as well do it from the get-go. But all to say that it's really like drama that I didn't really miss. It's one day after the other. It never ends. Like, I just want a deal already. Can this just nonsense stop? Like, is this reality TV? I guess it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit silly, right? Trump, like Carney says, Carney gives a speech and Trump says, "Oh, he walked it back," and Carney says, "No, I didn't." And then it feels like high school, right? It's just he said, she said. And at the end of the day, you just want to see a deal done. It's such an important thing for the Canadian economy. We can sort out all the other shit later, but you got to make a deal. Everyone knows you got to make a deal. You don't have any leverage, so just take what's on the table and live to fight another day.
We'll take this comment before we get into the first video, but Vesperia Rose is saying Idiocracy, the movie. Yeah, it very well said. It is often how I feel. I feel like a very average, intelligent individual. Yeah, I just rewatched it not too long ago, but I'm just a regular averaged intelligence person. I just do a lot of research. But sometimes, you have conversations with people and I'm like, are you guys messed in the head? Like, what the hell is going on here? Where are my Crocs? I just don't want to wear Crocs. So let's get started with the first video. Here's U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent claiming that yesterday he was in the Oval Office with Donald Trump when Mark Carney called, and it seems that his speech was not quite the same as what he said in front of the TV. So,
Prime Minister, or if you prefer, Governor of Canada, and him threatening to, break economic alliances with the U.S., go with China. The president has threatened 100% tariff. What impact would that have?
It would be a disaster for Canada. I was in the Oval with the president today. He spoke to Prime Minister Carney, who was very aggressively walking back some of the unfortunate remarks he made at Davos. And Sean, I'm not sure what the Prime Minister was thinking. Of course, Canada depends on the U.S. There's much more north-south trade than there could ever be east-west trade. He talks about middle countries having to do their own thing. And I'm old enough to remember when French President Francois Mitterrand tried to go down that route. It failed back in the 80s. It'll fail now. And Canada is linked to the U.S., and the Prime Minister should do what's best for the Canadian people rather than trying to push his own globalist agenda.
Hard to argue with.
I'm like, yes, that's it. That's my answer to what he just said. Yes, 100%. Yes, you're absolutely right. That is all Mark Carney needs to do. But before we actually take some of the comments and we comment on this, let's see what Mark Carney had to say about this.
I said this to the president. I meant what I said in Davos. It was clear it was a broader set of issues that Canada was the first country to understand the change in U.S. trade policy that he had initiated, And we're responding to that. We're responding positively by building partnerships abroad. We're responding positively by building at home. And we're prepared to respond positively by building that new relationship through CUSMA. He understood that, and it was a good conversation.
So, at the end of the day, who's lying? If you judge by experience, Mark Carney always walks back. Anytime he goes elbows up, he goes elbows down the day after. So I have a tendency to believe what Scott Bessent is saying compared to what Mark Carney is saying. Let's be honest here for a second. Did he walk back what he said?
Well,
you know he did.
yeah,
You know he
and-
did. You know he did.
Yeah, I think he probably did, and I think he probably should have. To be honest, I think I don't know. I don't really know what he's doing here. I guess he's thinking he'll talk in private to Trump and walk it back, but then deny it so it doesn't hurt him with his own voters. But I don't know, man. Liberal voters got to really stop making opposition to Trump as their only platform. Like, the only thing they care about is sticking it to Trump, and that's terrible policy for actually helping Canada in any real way.
It's not surprising though when you
Basically, all it
consider
does
that
is- You go ahead.
but it's not surprising considering the average person that voted for Carney. If you ask them what the definition of being Canadian is, not being American is going to be their answer. So
Yeah.
you can't be that. So I'm not surprised by the way they're behaving. I'm just fed up with it. At the end of the day, man, this country depends, just like he said, the country depends on the US a lot more than the US depends on Canada. And that's a fact. Love it or hate it. That's a fact. Deal with it. Make a deal. Stop acting tough in front of the camera. You're like 5'4", bro. You weigh what? 125 pounds soaking wet. I had bigger dogs than you. So please stop acting tough. Stop acting like you're all knowing. Just make a deal with the US. Let's call it a day, and then do all the deals that you want to do. Go around the world, try to become European, but sign a deal. Stop messing it up for the rest of us, because $950 billion is no joke. That's our economy right there. The US backs out of CUSMA, Canada's done.
Yeah, we're cooked. Yeah, and I don't have an issue if he wants to sign trade deals with China, sign trade deals with Europe, but they can't come at the expense of American trade deals. They can't. Just can't.
And we were talking about this with the food. Well, I was talking about this with the food professor yesterday, and he agreed to that too. He's like, having more customers just makes sense, but we can't live without the US, nor can we replace them. So
no,
the food professor is a liberal guy. Like, he's not a conservative by any stretch of the imagination. That dude's a liberal. But
he's a common sense guy.
Yeah, 100%. He is very common sense, as much as I don't agree with him on a lot of things. And yesterday, I didn't agree with some of the stuff that he said, and I'm not scared to say it to him, like I will say, but that doesn't mean I can't have a conversation with him. But we both agree that we cannot replace the US, and we cannot destroy our relationship trying to replace them. Ain't gonna happen.
No, they're not replaceable.
So, want to take some of the comments, or do we skip to the next topic? Because I just had to talk about this because this is the drama that's going on in the world of politics. That's not what I really wanted to talk about. The next subject is what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we'll jump on to the next one.
No comments. You don't want to take none?
I mean, mostly just stuff people agreeing with this. Nothing kind of that we can add any to it.
Just this one though.
Although I did see that one there.
Saying Scott Bessent worked for George Soros in the 90s as a hedge funder who helped to short the British pound in 1992. You know, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's so dramatic what's going on right now that it really makes me believe that it's all part of the plan. It's too dramatic. Like, it's literally high school.
These people they're all connected, right?
Just like, if you look at the videos,
they just care about money and power.
But just look at the way Mark Carney and Donald Trump interacted with each other when they saw each other at the White House. They're friends. They know each other. They're friends. Not Mark, but Donald Trump gave an 80 billion, the equivalent of an $80 billion contract to Westinghouse that's owned by Brookfield for nuclear reactor in the US. They're all friends. They all know each other. And it really makes me believe that we're seeing the unification of North America under the American banner. This is, the more this goes on, the more I'm convinced that everything we're seeing right now is just to give enough leverage for Trump to step in and say, you know what, screw this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm going to deal with Canada. So let's see what happens. And I don't know, man. There's a lot of Canadians that are okay with that. There's a lot of Canadians that would much rather be Americans than become Chinese, and I'm one of them. If you give me a choice of becoming American or becoming Chinese, I'd rather be I'd rather be American, but
yeah, sure. If that's your, I mean, if those are your options, almost everyone would agree. I think if you ask Canadians if they'd rather stay Canadian, you'd still have a majority would rather stay Canadian. Although there's probably a large minority of people who would prefer to be American. But I also think if you ask them who do you want to be closer allied to, America or China, most of them still are going to say America. That's why I don't really understand what Carney's doing here.
Yeah. See, hold on. This one's a great one because I did notice that. Wilf, look at Harper at the throne speech, hugging Trudeau, whispering in his ears. I remember seeing that, and I actually commented on the live because I don't remember. Was it with you that we covered it, or was it with or was it with Jason? It was with you, right?
I think.
Yeah, and I saw.
I think it was 3 of us.
I think it. Yes, I think so. But I noticed that, like, they were just like Trump and Obama. Have you seen them?
Even Trump and Obama.
Trump and Obama.
They were buddy.
Of course they are.
It's pro wrestling, man. When the camera, when they're in the ring and the cameras are on, they're fighting like they're enemies. And when they're off duty, they're backslapping and sharing secret handshakes and shit.
We'll take this one before we get to the next topic, but he's absolutely right, Trevor. Trump and Carney are both puppet. Look at the Council of 300. Yeah, if you don't know what the Council of 300 is, look at it. It predicted the map. It shows you a really nice map of what the world is going to look like soon. And Canada, the US, Mexico, and Greenland are all part of Zone 1, if I'm not mistaken. And if I remember correctly, there's 9 zones in Canada. And this is decades ago, right? This is from decades and decades ago. And Chuck Davis is saying, here, brother, but I prefer being Canadian. Yeah, that's the thing, right? If you give me a choice, I'd rather be Canadians from the 80s. But right now, as it stands, if you give me a choice between continuing on the path of Canada and becoming an associate of the communist country of China, I'd much rather be American. But at the same time, I also believe that they're trying to put us on one world order. So it's no good, man. Either way, either where you look, we're screwed. We're just fucking screwed. On that note, I saw something interesting. I commented on this. I made a video about this today, but there's a Conservative MP for York Centre released the following video that I'm going to show you in a minute. In the video, you also see Andrew Lawton, MP for London South. Obviously, they're both Conservatives. And they're praising themselves. Great news out of Justice Committee. The Liberals finally agreed to prioritize bail reform and punt Bill C-9 behind it. Bill C-9 is on hold. Much needed consideration of bill reform is next. Proud of my CPC committee colleagues. Listen to this.
Today, major climb down by the Liberals. The Conservatives have been imploring them to shut down C-9 and move to bail, prioritize bail reform that Canadians so sorely need over Bill C-9, where the Conservatives drew a red line around the elimination of the religious exemption. And finally today, the Liberals agreed to prioritize the bail legislation that we're going to be debating in Justice Committee for the next few weeks. And for now, we're able to punt C-9 a little bit behind.
Yeah, I mean, Canadians have been speaking out loud and clear.
So this is the first part. That was, like I said, that was Roman Baber, Conservative MP for York Centre. The gentleman that was with him is Andrew Lawton. I will play the video of Andrew instead of playing that bad recorded one. But here's Andrew Lawton speaking about what's happening with Bill C-9.
Here just left the first meeting of the Justice Committee since the House of Commons came back today, and I am pleased to report that your voices have been heard loud and clear. The messages that you've been sending members of Parliament, you've been calling their offices, writing emails, maybe a couple of carrier pigeons or two, they have worked, because what we succeeded in doing today was getting the Liberals to admit that there are far more pressing concerns than their divisive and toxic Bill C-9, which takes aim at the civil liberties and religious freedoms of Canadians. The Liberals finally agreed to do what we tried almost 20 times to do back in December, which was let us work on fixing the broken bail system, deal with things for which there is a far greater consensus, and things that most Canadians have been asking for MPs of all stripes to get serious about. So what the Liberals agreed to today was a motion that would allow us to prioritize the study of Bill C-14. This is the Liberal Bail Reform Bill. Now, there's a lot that should be in that bill that isn't, and that's why my Conservative colleagues and I are going to be working to improve that. We're going to be putting amendments forward. I actually put forward an amendment that the Liberals ended up supporting, which was demanding that Justice Minister Sean Fraser testify before the Justice Committee on Liberal bail. So we are going to be moving on this for the next 2 weeks. Now, C-9 is not dead forever. The Liberals have still said they intend to push this bill forward, and we need to continue to stand up and oppose this bill and stand up for religious freedom. But we've bought ourselves 2 weeks. For the next 3 meetings, we're going to be focused exclusively on bail, which means we'll be able to get serious about real crime instead of thought crime. So
you know, this is exactly why I cannot stand politicians and conservatives fit in that envelope too. They're making it sound like bail reform is more important than the censorship bill that Bill C-9 is. As much as bail reform is important, Bill C-9 is the bill that not only infringes on religious freedom, especially Christians like me, but it's the bill that defines hatred as the emotion that involves detestation or vilification, and that is stronger than disdain or dislike, which right now as we speak, the Canadian Criminal Code does not have a definition for hatred. And that's a very good thing, because it shouldn't be in there. No crimes, it's not a crime there's no such thing as a hate crime. But I don't want Canada to become like the UK, where 13,000 people are arrested every year for social media posts. And it really pisses me off to see 2 MPs from the Conservative Party acting like they won something. 2 weeks break. Who gives a fuck about bail reform when censorship? Free speech is the most important right that we have as human beings. If we can no longer say what we want to say, we're screwed. Because remember what Bruce Pardy said. Bill C-9, and Bruce Pardy is a lawyer. He said himself that Bill C-9 criminalizes emotions. Hatred is an emotion that is greater than disdain. This is what drives me nuts. You didn't win shit, Andrew Lawton. You didn't. 2 weeks is nothing. This bill does not need to be put on hold. This bill does not need to be explored. It needs to be scrapped altogether. That bill needs to disappear. And there's no more important bill right now that needs to be fought. Because remember, because Bill C-9 defines hatred, Bill C-16 is using that definition. And if you go into the Bill C-16 that was introduced last month, it makes reference to hatred as defined by Bill C-9. And you know that Bill C-63, the new one, when it's tabled, it's gonna call on that hatred definition. So we need to scrap Bill C-9 so that Bill C-16 has no power, neither will Bill C-63 or the new number that it gives them. But this is way more important than bail reform. Like, let's be honest here.
Yeah. I mean, as I think when making this argument to people who don't really know a whole lot about it, I think that thing you mentioned about Bruce Pardy, That's definitely the angle to take it from. Like, this is not just adding more to the existing criminal code. This is creating a whole new class of crime. There is currently every other crime that exists in the criminal code is an action. It is a behavior, a thing that you do. And this is a fundamentally different type of crime. This is a thought crime. This is emotional crime, and no society can thrive with that kind of authoritarian, heavy-handed governance looming over them.
I want to take this comment because this is something that I've seen before and I really want to address. Devil's Due 85 is saying they're not worried about it because once they call the election this year, it's scrapped. What makes you... I don't know what the Big C conservative are talking about. Why do you expect any type of election this year? Mark Carney is 1 seat away from a majority, and he will get a third walk-in. He will get another person to cross that floor. He will get his majority. So why the hell does he need an election? There's not going to be an election right now at all. He's in power. He's not going anywhere. And if you listen to the speech he gave yesterday at the grocery store introducing his new grocery benefits, in the question period, he actually mentioned that he was looking to the conservative to push these reform bills fast. And he didn't name the bills, but he was making reference to those bills. The C2, C8, C9, C12, C16, and the new C63 that's going to be tabled. So yes, if there's an election, those bills would be scrapped. But I guarantee you that if there is, let's say that you guys are right, which I don't think you are, there's no reasons for him to do it right now. He still has over 3 years to his mandate. Why the hell would he risk it? But let's say that he did. Let's say that he did. There's a good reason why he said that he wanted the conservatives to push those bills yesterday. Because he can easily push those bills. They're in committee right now. They're literally 1 vote away from becoming a reality. So he could push those bills within a month if he wanted to. If he got the support on the conservative side, those bills would be pushed. So I don't understand this whole thing. There's no problem. There is a massive problem because this is literally has the power to turn Canada into the UK, and I don't want to live in the UK. I really don't feel like spending 10 years in prison because I hurt a purple hair's his feelings. I don't want to do jail time because I said something that hurt their feelings. But that is what Bill C-9 is all about. Let's not lie to each other. This is exactly what it is. It's criminalizing emotions.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. There's a comment here. Certain Forbes says, when emotions become law, you have no law. Canadians need to understand they have no rights or property rights or recourse. Stop supporting the Westminster system. It enslaves you. Yeah, I mean, especially the first part here, I completely agree with. When emotions become law, there is no law. That's crazy. You can't. And again, anyone who's talking to the normies out there, you got to hammer it on that point. This is not just more laws of the same type. This is an entirely new type of law that we don't currently have and will fundamentally change the criminal justice landscape of this country for the worst.
Oh, 100%. And the thing is it's going to be a bill that's going to be extremely hard to walk back. If that becomes reality, Canada is going to be in danger for a long time, a very long time. It's going to get, I know that it's going to get worse before it gets better. The question is, how much worse does it need to get before it gets better?
Yeah.
Before we have our guest of the day join us, I want to make a little announcement that tomorrow at 7:30 we're going to be joined by former Calgary Conservative MP Rob Ambrose to speak about the Conservative Convention taking place from tomorrow to Saturday. He's very outspoken, so I'm not the biggest fan of politicians, but Rob Ambrose actually got balls. He's going to say what needs to be said, but we're going to talk about the Conservative Convention and the $2,000 ticket that's attached to attending. Did you hear about that? That's absolutely insane. If you want to
No, I didn't.
attend the conservative convention, it's $2,000 a ticket. Like it's crazy. Those are the numbers that I'm seeing.
Out, that's for sure.
That's going to keep pretty much anybody in Canada that can afford food out, and that's probably exactly why. So today we are joined.
Of course, it is. They want to keep the peasants out.
Yeah, the peasants. That's a very good way to say it. Yep, they definitely want to keep the peasants out. Tonight we are joined by independent journalist and friend of the show, Jason Lavigne, to give us an update on both the Alberta Sovereignty movement and on the tour that he's been doing with Bruce Pardy and Nadine Wellwood. Mr. Lavigne, what is going on, brother?
I'm doing good.
Sir.
I didn't know you guys became Alberta sovereignists, because all I've been hearing for the last 10 minutes or so are reasons for Alberta to separate. So thank you very much for the promotion of Alberta sovereignty there.
Yeah, yes. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's an easy sell today. Eh? You just look at what's going on. It's even in the comments, I hear that all the time. They're like, Canada's screwed. We're depending on the Alberta independence. And I don't know if it was with you that we spoke about this, but one thing I've said from the get-go is Mark Carney is going to be the last prime minister of Canada as we know it.
Yeah. And I think that's been echoed a lot since his election, all over this country, Quebec as well, Saskatchewan now, Alberta for sure. We came out of the gate pretty hot on that one. And did you say that Andrew Lawton was looking for 2 weeks on Bill 9 before they get back to it?
Yeah, he was all proud and happy to announce that Bill C-9 has been put on the back burner for 2 weeks while they deal with bail reform. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Bail reform needs to be dealt with, but I don't want to lose my right to say whatever the hell I want to say, no matter who it offends. Or that's more important to me than bail reform.
No, and you made a good argument there, but he wants 2 weeks to flatten the bill. So, that probably will work out. It always works out.
Yeah. But it's just
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Flatten that bill. Yeah, good luck with that. Bill 9 is a tough one.
That is the worst piece of legislation, in my opinion, that's been tabled right now outside of Bill C-63. And it's so dangerous because Bill C-16 calls on the definition of hatred that Bill C-9 gives. And you know that the new Bill C-63, that is the Online Harms Act, or it's probably going to be called the Online Safety Act now, is going to call on that definition of hatred, because that definition does not exist in the criminal code as we speak right now. And for you to go to jail for hurting people's feelings, you need that definition somewhere, even though that it is just greater than disdained. Absolutely insane.
It wasn't long ago that you had John Carpe on, and at that episode, the three of us recognized quickly that collectively these are the Big Brother bills, and they're going to cross-reference themselves all over because they couldn't release one big bill that said the Big Brother Act, so they broke it up into all these little pieces. It's coming true. You see this now, right?
100%. I called it as soon as those bills started coming out. I called it. I've been talking about this for months, and I don't know, man. It doesn't seem the Conservatives are not talking about it the way it should be addressed. The Liberals obviously are for it. The Bloc are for it. But I don't know for you guys, and I don't know what you're hearing in Alberta, considering that you've been touring a lot recently. You were even at the Big Four yesterday. Are Albertans even interested in Canadian politics anymore, or are they done? Because this is what's hurting me as somebody that wants Canada to do good, is the most conservative province in Canada doesn't seem to care for Canada anymore. They're way busier on the Alberta independence, and that's not good for the rest of Canada.
No, there's a lot of us that have already completely checked out of the Canadian system, the Westminster system, the carnage. We've checked out a long time ago. What you'll see happen here is every once in a while we'll pull in one of your headlines and go, see, this is why we got to go. Even in our churches, they're talking about Bill 9. Like, that's actually happening in our churches here. And it just leads into the conversation of why we can't be under Ottawa's control anymore. They don't understand us, our values. They're coming out and attacking us, our faith. There's just reason after reason. Carney going to China and saying New World Order, and you got Elizabeth May saying she's on board with New World Order. She's a swing vote right now. She's a balance of power. Like, Canada's done. Like, I'm not sure how much. Well, more like here we love our steaks rare or medium rare, but not well done. Nobody out here allows you to have a well done steak, and Canada's at that stage now. It's done. There's no saving this anymore, as far as Albertans are concerned. Yeah, it's cooked.
So what are you
It's
hearing?
burnt.
So what are you
Burnt to the crisp.
what are you hearing? Because I saw your video from the Big Four. I saw Alberta dad that was there too. He posted a video.
Mhm.
There was a lot of people there. Damn. Like this room. Hold on. You know, I thought I brought it up. I did. I believe I downloaded your video. Let me play it to give people perspective, but it was actually pretty impressive. Like there seemed to be a lot of people. Here's the video you shared yesterday or this morning.
And with that, I will introduce our MC this evening, Derek from Unacceptable Fringe. Please welcome him to the stage with a big round of applause. Derek.
That's a lot of people.
Like that. That's a
Wow.
lot of people, eh?
Yeah, and what it doesn't capture
are
is
you-
all the lineups throughout the day and the signatures, because a lot of people signed and left. But that's at the Big Four, which is just across from the BMO Center, where the original event was scheduled, but their capacity was 6,000. So it got moved to 7,500 capacity at the Big Four. And that was standing room only. What you didn't see there is about an hour later, when it was really full, all the way in the back, people were standing, all along the sides, people were standing, and nobody was leaving until Mitch was done his speech. Everybody stayed for the whole thing.
What are you
So
getting
Jason,
from
are you seeing
Albertans
an
right now?
increase in the awareness?
100%. Ever since everything's kicked off early January, there were long lines. But now that Edmonton showed up, the park was full. Thousands of people went there. Calgary, thousands of people went there. Now you're getting, even in cold weather up in Grand Prairie, thousands of people are showing up. More and more people are seeing it's real. And they're also seeing the lying news, because you had CTV say 500 people showed up in an Edmonton park. There was 5,000 people there. And people are seeing this now. So there's a lot of people coming out. They weren't sure if it was real. They know it's real now. So these lines are not stopping either. From 11 o'clock till 11 a.m. till 10 o'clock p.m., people were showing up to sign. There's 150 canvassers at the Big Four. That means people taking signatures so we can move people through there quickly. And there were still lineups. It was amazing to see. And this is in the heart of Calgary.
How many signatures do you think you guys have right now?
There's an estimate between 6,000 and 8,000 went through just yesterday at that one event.
But altogether?
We don't have that number. Elections Alberta doesn't allow that to be promoted or talked about. We can't release that until all signature collections are done and the period's done. And I actually got accepted as an Elections Alberta third-party advertiser today. So that allows me to do a lot more than I could yesterday when it comes to these events. I'm excited to bring a lot more towards and information to people over the coming weeks.
How many signatures do you guys need?
177,000, but the goal is 1 million plus. So we're going to try and get 5 or 6 times what we require to get this done.
You think it's going to happen?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I think that million is becoming more attainable, especially when you see Calgary and Edmonton show up. When you look at the rural areas, like Drayton Valley, the lineup was around the corner. Red Deer, the first event I did January 10th, the lineup was around the corner, past the parking lot, around that corner too. 3-hour wait, and people were happy to be in that line. I walked the line. I'm asking people, hey, do you mind that you're waiting? And the most common response is, I've been waiting my whole life. Another hour is not going to bug me.
Man,
And you're seeing all ages there, guys. You're seeing all ages and all classes.
Go ahead, Rob.
So let's say you guys get the numbers that you think. Obviously, you don't have a crystal ball, but walk us through what you think is going to happen, the timeline of that next. Like what happens after that? When does the vote happen? And if the vote goes your way, when do you think the actual separation happens? And just your best guess. I know these things are very complex.
Those are amazing questions, Rob. So I had Mitch Sylvester on my show yesterday morning. He's a petitioner, so he's the one that started all of this. He says that once we're done our collection period in early May, if the numbers are there, we get that referendum in about October. And if that comes back a yes, we could be looking at a constitutional convention in December or early January 2027. And that would be one of the big steps to start hashing out what the new constitution would look like for Alberta. In the meantime, the current government, that will be Danielle Smith's government, will have to start the negotiations with Ottawa. And you got to understand that the Clarity Act was written in such a way that once you invoke the Clarity Act through a referendum with a yes vote, it's not a negotiation tool to keep you in the country. It is a negotiation tool to secede from the country. You're actually not allowed to leverage those results to have a new deal within Canada. You actually have to be serious about leaving before you can execute those negotiations. And that's exactly what we expect this government to do. There's a provincial election October 2027 that's required. So we expect it to happen before then to have these negotiations done, or that government may be replaced by a party that's far more excited about making those conversations complete. But it could be as quick as 2027 that Alberta is in the final stages of ceding from Canada.
It's very interesting, the movement that you guys have started, because now we're hearing parts of BC are talking about it. I spoke with Chris Barber not too long ago. He's like, I'm not really interested in fighting for Canada. I'm paraphrasing, but he's not really interested to fight for Canada anymore. He's going to concentrate his time on Saskatchewan separation. And now we have the Parti Québécois, the PC in Quebec. And yes, I said it in French for my Frenchies out there. But we have the Parti Québécois that Plamondon, the guy leading it, is a separatist. He's an open separatist. And last week I was on the Conservative Corner with David Creighton, and we had Jeff Rath. Was it last week? No, the week before. We had Jeff Rath, and he was saying that behind closed doors, he has been dealing with Plamondon in order to see how they can help each other get their independence. So it's what Alberta started is really, really interesting. But man, you guys started the destruction of Canada. Not that it's your fault, as in you were abused for more than 10 years. So from the get-go, you and I, you know this, I backed Alberta 100,000 million %. I understand why you guys want to be independent, but man, imagine Alberta being gone, BC talking about it, Saskatchewan talking about leaving, and Quebec leaving, because Quebec could separate extremely fast. Like, I was hearing one of their ministers one of the guys that would become minister if he was elected as part of the Parti Québécois, and he's like, we already have our questions done, bro. Like, he was on the radio, he's just like, we're ready to go. And this is happening this year. There's an election in 2026, so Alberta and Quebec could literally be out of Canada by 2027. It's insane when you think about it.
And I'll just make one correction there.
like
I don't think we
there's
started this at all. I think we're going to finish this, though. I absolutely agree with that part of it.
Yeah.
This has started 40 plus years ago. This is the third major wave. The Reform Party was one of the waves that happened in the 80s. But it looks like this generation is ready to finish the job. And I absolutely think that if a yes vote happens here in Alberta, Quebec's on a fast track, because the payments are going to stop. $15 billion won't be coming out of Alberta anymore. And there's very little reason for Quebec to stick around if these equalization payments kind of dry up on them. But I think on their side too, they're going to absolutely be accelerating their plans to leave. You mentioned Saskatchewan. Brad Williams from Saskatchewan Prosperity Project was on last week. They're excited too. They're working really hard. They don't have a path forward with a referendum in Saskatchewan. It's the only province that doesn't allow a referendum because they don't have a statute for that, but they're working on getting that rectified. And you're very correct about BC. I think that's the sleeping giant a lot of people are overlooking, because they had 30% support when we had 30% support as well. We've grown a lot in Alberta, but the northern part and central part of BC, especially the ceded lands that are under treaties that are ceded, those people are really considering an internal referendum to go ahead and maybe separate BC up and break BC up, because with UNDRIP and DRIPA and all those complications with the unceded portions of BC, the ceded portions of BC are very concerned about what's going to happen to their land. So you might see a lot more breaking up of Canada that any of us ever saw coming as this continues.
It's I think that Alberta separating is going to help Quebec move forward because one of the equalization payments are not going to be there. But if you look at the natural resources that we have in Quebec, we're in a very similar position as Alberta. We're talking hydroelectricity, we're talking rare minerals. We are full of those minerals, but we are
Yeah,
not
natural gas.
exploiting or not. Oh yeah, but we are not. But just like Alberta, we're not exploiting our natural resources the way it should be exploited. And if you cut those $15 billion in equalization payment every year, you can no longer be a welfare state. You're gonna have to put people to work and be dependent and or be independent. My apologies, but we have the natural resources to do it, just like Alberta does. And that to me might be the kick in the ass that a guy like Plamondon leading the Parti Québécois needs. He wants this to start exploiting his own province. So everything's there to do it. It's just a matter of having it done. And I think Alberta's opening up that door and Canada will never be the same. That's exactly what we're seeing now. Very interesting.
And one of the elements that's missing this time around that we saw in 95 for Quebec was the country basically told Quebec, we love you, don't leave, we want to stay together. That's not happening this time around. There's a lot of people upset with us. Jan Arden kind of kicked that ball off for everybody. But the attitude is, you can't leave, we won't let you leave, screw you for even talking about it. We're getting absolutely no reasons to stay. There is absolutely no good argument.
Yeah.
The Forever Canada group, when they were crossing the province, couldn't answer the question of why should we stay. But there's a whole bunch of reasons on why we should leave. And you heard a bunch of them at the big four yesterday. You know, meme after meme and post after post Mitch was putting up there. And it's like, oh yeah, that too. Oh yeah, look at that one. Oh wow, Bill 9. Like, holy smokes, look at 63. Like, there's a reason after reason why this doesn't work anymore. And I'm really surprised that more provinces haven't started to take a look at this, like Newfoundland, one of the last ones to join. They may want to start taking another look at the deal they got when they came. But seeing the West, even Manitoba, Manitoba should start taking a look at what they can do if they were their own republic. We may be starting it, but I don't think we're close to finishing. I think there's going to be a lot more provinces start putting a hat in the ring and testing that water, especially if a referendum in October in Alberta comes back as a strong yes, so 60% plus.
The Rob, there's a question in the comment section for you, and I think it's a relevant one. Trevor's asking you a question for you as a vet. How do you feel about this?
As a vet. So I, as an Easterner, I do not want Alberta to separate. I think it will essentially, effectively destroy Canada as we know it. And I think it will, you know, I recognize Alberta as the economic engine of Canada. So I don't want them to separate. And, you know, my personal opinion is, you know, I hope Jason's side loses. On the other hand, I understand why. I understand I should actually go back to that a second. Another reason is you know, as you said, as an ex-vet, I also have a military pension, right? That is a large part of my income, and I'm sure I don't know exactly the breakdown, but I'm sure most of that comes from Alberta. So if Alberta leaves, that's going to probably almost certainly affect me directly. So again, from my own perspective, in much the same way that from the average Albertan's perspective, many of them do not want to leave, or many of them do want to leave. From my perspective, I don't want them to leave, but I get it. I think that Canada has really taken advantage of Alberta, and I think, you know, the attitude has been just garbage. You know, it's funny, we're talking about Jason's talking about the differences or the similarities between the Alberta and Quebec situation, and I kind of focus on the differences a little bit. Or I guess Jason mentioned this difference, that the way that Quebec was treated is fundamentally different than the way Alberta is treated, and yet Alberta actually has a valid beef, and I don't believe Quebec actually did. I think Quebec was already getting a ton of advantage and benefits from being in Canada. It was a net positive to be in Canada for Quebec, and it's a large net negative to be in Canada for Alberta. what I would like to see would be a complete 180 in the attitude of the way Eastern Canada treats Alberta, enough and in such an aggressive way that it is able to convince Albertans that maybe they don't need to leave. But I'm not seeing that from the Liberal government or anyone else in Eastern Canada.
No, and one of the speakers at the Big Four yesterday is a vet. And what he spoke was he put up the uniform for the Canadian military because he was fighting for freedom, but he doesn't see freedom within Canada anymore. So he's now fighting for freedom on a Alberta level, because that's what we're fighting for here. We're fighting for the freedom of our sovereignty and self-determination. He never thought he would have to do this fight within Canada, but that's what was the big highlight for his speech yesterday was he's ready to fight, not militarily, but he's willing to fight for freedom here, especially for the future generations. And Rob, you nailed it. If there was a 180 turn on the relationship and the way that Alberta was respected, because you're concerned about your pension, and probably rightfully so, because about 12% of the population covers about 25% of the bills here when it comes to the entire nation. So you might be right. The currency may take a hit. There's a lot of funds that will leave the coffers in Ottawa. Things may be getting tight. And already for vets, you guys are totally abused as well. You're the people that fought for the country. And yet, as Trudeau said, there's just not, they don't have enough to give. You guys want too much, more than they can give you. So this is all I can really offer to you, Rob, is maybe start checking out some property around Calgary or Edmonton. Red Deer might be a good fit for you, because I think you'd be
Well, if it
respected out here.
happens, I'll probably start thinking about that.
Yeah, you'd be respected out here. We actually honor our vets out here and our seniors and the next generations. We put family and faith and future and freedom first out here. This is why a lot of people call themselves Albertans first, Canadians second, because we have a very different mindset out here. And you'd be welcome. People like you and Nico, even with that accent, would be very welcomed out in Alberta.
Well, it's to know if they respect liberals though in Alberta, because I don't think there's a lot.
He's not a liberal anymore. He's a liberal, historic liberal.
Yeah,
I think he's legacy liberal, maybe a better term now.
In name only.
Yeah.
What's the term for it? A classical
liberal.
liberal. Classical liberal is the
Yeah.
term for what Rob is.
Which is not really much
But-
of a liberal these days.
No, that's basically the definition of a conservative in Canada, because our conservatives are not that conservative. So, but it's just, I find it very interesting on the geopolitics. You look on the world level, Trump is swinging that dick as hard as he can. Carney is acting like literally a little idiot, like a little child that his feelings are hurt. And then even on the inside of Canada, it's separation, it's independence all over the place. People are tired, both on the world stage and both on the home stage. 2026 is going to be interesting. 2026 is going to be a very, very interesting year in politics, both locally and in world politics. It's only a month in, and it feels like we've been in 2026 for 6 months already.
Doesn't it? For sure.
Yeah.
And the tour I did with Bruce Pardy and Nadine Wellwood was fun, because we hit 5 different locations, and 2 of them that we had booked. One of them was at the Canadian Brew House, and another one's at the Canadian Legion. Both of those canceled our venue bookings. So we'll stay away from anything with Canadian in its title and its name, because it seems like that's probably a bad omen. But Canadian Brew House, I think, learned a hard lesson. They canceled us in North Edmonton. At first, they said we didn't have a booking, but then we produced the text messages and the confirmation from the booking from there. And then they put out a press release saying, okay, they did have a booking, but we want to stay neutral and not do political stuff here. After they put that press release out, we said, hey, by the way, Spruce Grove, Canadian Brew House, you have a political event on the Friday. It's a petition collection for a recall. So you're supporting the NDP's push to remove MLAs, and then they put out another release saying we canceled that event too. So they did all the wrong moves. What they should have done was allowed all the events, be welcoming and opening like they say they are, but they managed to upset everybody all in the same week. And that's too bad to see, because what we want to see here is these are all legal petitions. This is Elections Alberta. has provided the pathway for these, and that's for the recalls as well. I'd like to see all businesses just stay neutral and allow anybody to book and have a peaceful assembly and do their business. But Canadian Brewhouse, I think, took the wrong approach, and we've seen a lot of boycott calls for them now all across this province. People are staying away from them. The Canadian Legion, I get it. They got a lot of pushback as well. But other than those two events, which we rebooked at other locations, so we didn't cancel the events, we just rebooked them. It's been a fantastic success. Like I said, lineups out the door. All of our halls that we booked are full. We've had to add seats to all of them. Standing room only, especially in Drayton Valley, we had well over 350 people in that room just to have conversations and ask questions. And Bruce Pardy was a fantastic person to do that with. He's from Ontario, law professor and lawyer, but he's got a very good outlook that Alberta can help fix Canada if it shakes up the political landscape enough that maybe Ottawa will have to wake up too. I'm not convinced that Carney would do that, and Rob, I don't think that 180 in the attitude will be coming anytime soon. But maybe there's a sliver of hope there that could open that door.
If he's ready to spit in the face of our biggest client, that's worth 950 billions to $1 trillion a year, he doesn't care about Alberta. Sorry. So I wouldn't expect a 180 at all. I would expect him to do the chicken dance, continuing what he's doing right now, because it's not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. What I'm really curious though. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. So 1.7 million people voted in the last provincial election. That's why we need 177,000, so 10% for this petition. But if we ended up getting 1.2, 1.3 million people on that petition, this is before the referendum itself, that will give a 6-month period before the referendum is voted on, that if they really want to make some change and they really want to sit down and do some conversations, that would be the time. And Danielle Smith may be very well equipped with 1.3 million signatures on a petition that's turning into a referendum, maybe negotiate. But again, I don't think with the official opposition, the Conservatives do not want to see this happen. There's a reason why Pierre said he's not running in Alberta in the next election. He's already given that seat up. He's coming out here to kind of rally a little bit of support on the 30th. There's that event on the 31st with a bunch of conservative influencers. they're really trying to do their best in Alberta to try and convince what's left of the Conservative Party to kind of stand up against independence. But look, they got a lot to lose. 37 seats would be off the table if Alberta's out of the door, and you may never see a Conservative government in Canada again. So I can see why they're getting nervous, and I can see why they're pushing hard now. And they're behind some of the propaganda too at this stage, Nico. Trump's going to take you over. If you actually look at the procedure in the U.S., that's an impossibility. We went through that with Dennis Modry on Thursday. It can't happen. And Mitch laid it out as well on Monday. The U.S. government is not looking to make Alberta a 51st state. The Democrats don't support that. They need 2/3. They need a referendum on our side to accept it. That's just not in the cards. But that's what the propaganda is saying. A lot of people are saying Trump's trying to take Alberta, and that's coming out of even conservative media now from the East.
That is a very valid point that you're making, because they are having an event where something like 12 conservative social media creators are going to Alberta just next to the convention for the Conservative Party that's taken place from the 29th to the 31st. Is that what you think it is? They are trying to, because I know they're shills. I've called them shills to their faces. They know how I feel about them. They're very aware. And I think that's what they are. That's what they do. That's what they continue to do. But is that what you're getting as somebody that's from, as an Albertan, when you see a bunch of Easterners outside of one, it seems like that's going to Alberta for the Conservative convention? Is that what you think it is? They're being paid to be there. They're being encouraged.
I don't know about paid, but I'm pretty sure Pierre is going to show up to that little party. Well, maybe they see the bigger picture here, where they're trying to get more support to stay in Canada. Obviously, my invite was lost in the email because I wasn't invited to this event, and I'm one of the conservative commentators in Alberta. There's a couple of people out there that I think are good people that are going to that event. Absolutely. I wouldn't lump them all together. But I do think that there's some heavily conservative aligned people coming out, and they're trying to recruit, maybe talk to some Alberta conservative commentators and influencers to maybe change their tone. Several of them that are going, though, they're definitely for the sovereignty of Alberta. So I don't think they're going to be changing their minds anytime soon. And there's a lot of drama around that particular event, like who should go, who shouldn't go, who's not there, and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you at the Big Four, all the Alberta conservative commentators were there in one way, shape, or form. I saw Marty there. He was a good guy. I'm planning a tour out with him. I'm planning a tour out with David Parker as well. Several events coming up in April where a lot of these guys will be there. There's a lot of work being done by all of us out here. So I don't think anybody's going to be able to rock the boat and get us to start infighting and going after each other. But like I was trying to say to you, Nico and Rob, the East Side conservatives are really trying to damper the movement out here, and are using the term conservative to do it. Because I think they fully understand 37 seats are on the line. They'll never get them back. Once we're gone, we're gone. Saskatchewan will be on its way as well. There's another chunk there. But I think the Conservative Party is very concerned, very worried about what's going on out here. And I guarantee you, come May 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, when the final numbers come out on the petition signatures, that's when you're going to see a lot of sweat happening. Because if it hits the 1 million mark, 1.7 voted, 1 million are saying they're going to vote for independence. We're already at a win at that point. If it's higher than 1 million, it's going to be very tough to defeat that referendum in October.
But it's very interesting that they're all meeting on the same weekend in Alberta.
It's the day after the leadership review. Yeah, it's the day after.
Of course,
so the 30th
of course it is.
Yeah, in Calgary as well. So, and the rumor is Poilievre's going to show up there.
Of course,
and
he is.
Yeah, he'll just smoosh a bit and maybe try and recruit some of the Alberta guys. I don't think the Alberta guys are recruitable in that fashion, though. They're going to go there to represent the freedom of Alberta, check out what's going on. And we're all really, nice guys. Like, we do want to hang out and get to know each other. I wasn't invited, and I have no plans on going there. I do have other things to get done, but I don't look at this as a negative thing. I just look at this as possibly a little desperate that people from outside of Alberta are trying to come here to tell us what we should and shouldn't do when it comes to the conservative movement.
Just before we sign off here, just say I've got one last question. I don't know if Nico has another one, but last time we talked, there was some Danielle Smith was kind of under fire for some of the things she was doing. What's her image in the separatist movement or sovereigntist movement right now? Is she, because I think it was more neutral before, has it tipped into more negative now, or is it still, like, where do you guys, what's the consensus on Danielle Smith in this whole thing?
It's mixed. So even on the stage yesterday, you had Mitch Sylvester, who's understanding of Danielle Smith, passing Bill 14, opening the door to the petition. But at the same time, you have Jeffrey Rath, who wants to hold her more accountable. He wants to see more action out of her as well. He thinks that she's too neutral. But you're seeing a mix even on the stage yesterday. I will let you guys know there were some conversations I had that included Danielle Smith. So I had Bruce Pardy, his name comes up a lot, on an episode with Justice Minister Mickey Amory, who wrote Bill 14. And Bruce called him out. He said, you repealed Section 2.4 out of the Citizens Initiative Act, which allowed the courts to block a petition question that may contravene the Constitution. That's what the court case in Alberta was all about. Bill 14 repealed that, which opened the door to the referendum to go ahead without court intervention. However, that section at the very last part of Bill 14 put that section into the Referendum Act and reworded it in such a way that the government itself now could or may stop any petition that's binding and successful. So this will be after the referendum vote comes back as a yes, and it's a binding one, which would be a constitutional one. They can choose not to be bound to it. So I asked Mickey Amory that question on that episode. I said, are you going to stop the independence referendum from continuing after it's successful? And his answer was he doesn't consider the independence referendum a contravening of the Constitution because there is a Supreme Court and the Clarity Act path for it. So there's a procedure for it. He doesn't see that as a constitutional contravening. However, I had Danielle Smith on a couple of weeks after that, And I asked her the same question, and I let her know what Amy's answer was, and she didn't answer the question. So I asked her a second time, and her second answer was, once you get the numbers at the end of May or at the beginning of May, have me back on and I'll answer that question. And the question, frankly, is, will you stop the successful referendum from proceeding? And she wouldn't say yes or no. So we're going to have to now wait till early May when she comes back on, because that number comes back and it's strong. I don't think she'll have any other option but to say yes, whatever the people vote is what I'll bring forward as a mandate.
It's I'm a fan of Bruce Pardy. He's ballsy as hell. Like, that guy doesn't
Yep.
care. If he has he's gonna say what needs to be said, and God knows he can defend it too. He's a very smart guy. But I think that Danielle Smith really hurt herself. Like, somebody in the comment section called her a chameleon, and that's basically what I'm seeing too. She is playing. It really looks like her goal is she's a federalist, but she wants to be PM. That is what I've been getting from Danielle Smith ever since that MOU. It seems that she became who she really was, the person that Nadine Wellwood have been calling out for years now. It seems like she's showing who she is, but that would be I don't know how you guys would deal with that if she refused to just endorse the referendum. But the fact that that there's a part in the bill that allows her to do so, that bothers me. I'm not one of those that believes that, oh, they'll never use it. It's just, no. If it's there, they have plans to use it, or else it wouldn't be there.
Well, Justice Minister Amy did admit that they could use it to stop the independence referendum, but he said he wouldn't. But I definitely wanted to hear the same thing out of Danielle Smith. Without her taking a side, I just wanted to know if she would follow in Amory's footsteps and say that's not a contravention of the Constitution, because there is a procedure for a secession. One example I gave him was, well, let's say there was a petition that was successful and a referendum that was successful to vitiate or void out all treaties. There was an example of something that could pass. And he said, yeah, no, we would stop that, because that's exactly what this section is for. But he did say he wouldn't use it for independence, but that wasn't really his call. That would be Danielle Smith's, and she wouldn't confirm or deny what she would do with that.
That's never good. That's a politician's that's politicians politicking, right? I don't like that at all.
Right. But to answer your other question, what would happen if this petition fails? That's it. It's not moving forward. If it comes back with 178,000 signatures, so just enough, I think you'll see a lot more neutral talk out of her. But if it comes back with 1 million, it hits that 1 million mark, that's going to be the magic number. There's going to be no denying the strength of the support for independence and secession from Canada. And she's going to have to either step up, because what's going to happen, Nico, and I'll be frank with you, because I've had several conversations with MLAs and other people that's involved in this. There's a 6-month window. It's called the campaigning period before the referendum. If we need a different leader to carry it forward, we'll get one.
That's exactly what I thought you would say, because we've had that conversation before.
Yeah.
Jason,
I don't think she's going to take. I don't think she's going to Cameron herself. Okay, she's not going to do a David Cameron where she just steps down. So I think if the support is there, she's going to be the one. But if she isn't, that will be the only window to get it done. And Bruce Pardy highlighted this as well, that if Danielle Smith walks to Ottawa with a referendum with low support, she could end up walking out with no deal, and we stay in Canada. So the warning's out there now.
Couldn't agree with you more. I'm very curious about what's going to happen in Alberta, what's going to happen in Quebec. But yeah.
And sorry, Rob, I know you're a vet and you want Canada to stay together and you understand, but you're also very empathetic and you're very stoic about why. It's a very different relationship. Things are not good. And there's no good reason. How about you take a shot at that question for me, Rob? Why should Alberta stay? And don't mention your pension or money. Why should Alberta stay?
Yeah. Well, if I shift my perspective from my own personal needs or my own, then I can't really come up with anything. Like I said, and fundamentally, I believe in the right of self-determination of every people. So for me, whatever happened, whether it's bad for me personally or not, it's not a personal thing for me. I would never be personally upset or feel betrayed in any way if, let's say, this movement is successful. Again, I hope it doesn't happen. I still feel, Canadian. I want Canada to be whole. I understand if it does happen, but something's got to change, and it might even be too late, even if we change right now. But however this shakes out, I mean, there's the status quo is untenable. It's not sustainable. It cannot keep going. So there's going to be it has to be a major shift one way or the other.
Yeah, and there's a question that a lot of Albertans get asked that kind of wake them up, and that is, if we were a sovereign nation today and Canada offered us to join them under the current terms that we're under, so you're going to be more landlocked, you're not going to move your product, we're going to tax you, you got to do carbon capture, carbon tax, $30 billion extra leaving your economy, and we're going to lock down markets for you, would Alberta join? Not a chance.
Nope.
There's
that's
no
still
upside.
the reality. No, that's 100% right. I could not find an
yeah,
answer,
and that's
a reason.
that is the reality.
Yeah. Why would Alberta stay? I don't see it. Before we let you go, Jason, I just need to take this comment. Stu, thank you for the tip. The only way Canadian knows that PM Carney spoke to President Trump in a trade war is Fox News. Our government doesn't believe in transparency. It seems that it's not just on the federal level, but it's also on the Alberta level, because Danielle Smith wouldn't answer your question. So that's why it's funny how relevant that comment is, even though it was made almost 30 minutes ago. So good for you, Stu. You predicted the future. Jason,
well, she
as
didn't
always,
answer
man.
the question, but she did commit to come back on and answer the question later. So we'll tip a hat to that one, and we'll see what she says when she does that.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, I'm not that is like the fat guy that wants to lose weight. I'm not gonna start today. I'll start in 3 weeks. Next week. The week after. I'll do it then. Yeah, sure. Cool. She's just hoping that she doesn't have to answer your question. That's what I'm getting from not answering.
I believe you're correct, but I think she knows the reality. I think she sees the lineups too. She's not talking about it right now either way. She did come out and say the separatists are not looking to become the 51st state. So she actually supported us a couple of days ago with that quote, because it's true. Separatists and sovereignists are not looking to be the 51st state. So she came out and made that comment nice and clear. But not much more. We're hearing about other things going on right now.
She's not stupid. If there's one thing you gotta respect from Danielle Smith, she is not stupid. She's a very
I've had you both
woman.
on my show. Only intelligent people on my show, right? You've both been on. Danielle's been on. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Jason, as always, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you on. So
yeah, love having you on, brother.
Take care, Rob. And I think Red Deer would be a good place for you, Rob. There's a lot of good people there.
Yeah. Well, my brother lives in Calgary.
Is there a lot of gay guys there? Where are the gay guys in Alberta?
The big gay scene there?
Where's the gay scene in Alberta? He's a liberal, bro. Come on. Vancouver. That is a great answer. But I agree. It's probably Calgary
awesome. somewhere. Free drug.
Thanks for being here, brother.
Right?
Yeah.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah, I see you, Jason.
Well, there you have it, man.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Interesting chats. Before we sign off, just want to take this from Carmela Wen. Says, Rob can't answer the question. I mean, I don't know. I thought I did. How did I not answer the question? The question is, how do I feel about it? I don't want Alberta to separate, but I understand why they want to. And I hope my preference is they don't separate and the rest of Canada changes their attitude towards Alberta and stops mistreating them. I mean, I don't know how else to answer the question other than that. Are you asking me to make a case for why Alberta should separate? Well, because I don't want Alberta to separate, I'm not going to make the case. You understand? We have
an answer for you. Though. We have a quick answer for you. You need to move to Calgary. That's where the rainbow crosses are.
The rainbow crosswalks. Hey.
So is that not where your brother's from? Is in Calgary too?
He is from Calgary.
He'll show them all to you. He'll show them all to you. I'm sure he knows where they are.
I'm sure. He probably painted them all.
Well, on that note, bro, you wanna close it off?
Yeah, we'll put a pin in it. Yeah, excellent show, guys. I saw a comment. Oh, wait, here. I just quickly, Carmel said, one good reason for Alberta to stay. Oh, I mean, I guess I could make an appeal to emotion or history or legacy. If there's any feeling of Canadian identity. But again, I'm not an Albertan, so I don't know how deep that. I don't know. Most Albertans I've talked to, it seems like their primary identity is Albertan first and foremost. So, I mean, if you're asking me if there's like economic reasons, no, of course there aren't. Alberta's getting a terrible deal right now in Canada. If I were Albertan, would I want to leave? Yes, I would. I would not want to stay, but because I'm not Albertan, and I am in the rest of Canada, and the rest of Canada will live or die by Alberta's inclusion in it. Obviously, I don't want Alberta to leave.
See, that's where you and I differ. I want Alberta to leave. I want Canada needs a change, and I think Alberta is going to bring it. Canada can't continue the way that it is right now. It just can't.
Oh, it'd bring
even as somebody,
it'd bring a change, all right.
There you go. Let's bring a change because we can't continue the way that we are right now. So I hope Alberta separates. I hope Quebec separates. I hope Saskatchewan separates. I hope BC cracks right down the middle. I hope it all comes it just breaks away.
I mean, what?
Because something needs to change.
Something
needs to change.
Something
needs to change.
It's not sustainable. Yep. All right, guys. Excellent show. Some great conversation with our guest Jason. I saw a comment there that said the comment section is spicy tonight, and it definitely was spicy. I noticed that. And this is all probably the most emotional issue that we cover on this show, because it directly affects something as fundamental as your identity or to whether you feel you're a Canadian or an Albertan. And that's why I think it's important for a show like this to be able to get together and have these conversations, wherever you sit. We don't have to make this personal. And I think, all the, guests we've had on and just in the comments, I think we do a pretty good job of sticking to the issues. And, we don't, everyone is on the same page. We don't all agree, but we're able to have a respectful conversation. And that's really what this show's all about. So, folks, if you are tuning into the show and you want to support what Nico and I are doing here, please consider becoming a member. You can do that through YouTube for the low price of $2.99 per month. You can also buy us a coffee, which you will see in your upper left-hand corner of your screen, a QR code that will allow you to do that. And of course, another way you can support the show is just keep coming back. Throw the comments in there, and we will get to them. The show is heavily based on audience participation, so we are always going to kind of engage with our audience regularly throughout the show. Other than that, folks, have a great rest of your night. We'll catch you tomorrow for the Wednesday night Hump Day episode, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Peace.